How is everybody enjoying their lunch? That's good. Okay, so before you hear from Christine Bish, it is my, did I hit, whoops, I hit it, whoops.
Oh, dear.
Okay, before we hear from Bish, it is my pleasure to introduce the man who will be introducing Chris. Ken Payne is a respected leader, strategist, and longtime advocate for fiscal responsibility and critical infrastructure in California. Ken was the Republican nominee for Congress in 2000, running against then-sitting Representative Bob Matsu, bringing accountability and conservative principles to a race that required conviction and courage. He went on to serve 15 years as president of the Auburn Dam Council, an organization founded in the late 1970s, where he continues to serve as a leading voice on water shortage, flood protection, and long-term infrastructure planning for Northern California. Ken also served 11 years as president of the Sacramento Taxpayers Association, consistently standing up for the transparency, responsible spending, and the right of taxpayers. Today, Ken serves as a trusted advisor to Christine Bish, offering steady counsel grounded in experience, integrity, and a deep understanding of public policy. It is fitting that someone with Ken Payne's record and judgment introduce a candidate who shares those same values. Please join me in welcoming Ken Payne. Who is also a minister, I found out.
Thank you.
You can save it for my obituary, too.
If it wasn't AI, I would say, if I told you a million times, don't exaggerate. No, I said that. If I told you once, I've told you a million times, don't exaggerate. That's how it is.
Okay.
So it's my honor today to introduce really a pretty longtime friend, Chris Bish. I think we met in about 2020 in the midst of pretty disruptive times with COVID and other things that Chris will describe, not to mention getting elections stolen from us.
Yeah.
So Chris is not a career politician. She's an experienced investigator, business owner, and community leader. She stepped up to run for Congress because too many elected officials have come to believe that the rules no longer apply to them. As an experienced private investigator, Christine is widely recognized for her evidence-based reporting involving elected officials like Adam Schiff, Doris Matsui, Ami Bera, and others. Her work focuses on election integrity, residency requirements, and enforcing the law equally, especially when those in power would rather avoid scrutiny. So we've all heard about Adam Schiff, and Chris was behind bringing that to the surface. What Christine has exposed is not just about individuals, but about the failure of accountability at the very top that erodes trust in future elections. Christine spent more than 10 years as an investigator for a California law firm, and earlier in her career worked as a skip tracer, repossessed vehicles, and even assisted bounty hunters in tracking down individuals that jumped bail. For over 30 years, she has been an expert in mortgage and real estate, which I got some help with myself, including residency law, financial compliance, and how federal policy intersects with elections. Christine has also played a significant role in California's recent political history. She was a principal figure in the 2020 recall against Governor Gavin Newsom. Her lawsuit against the sitting governor is credited with contributing to the decision to end unconstitutional statewide mandates, demonstrating that determined citizens armed with the law and with facts can force change even at the highest levels of government. Beyond investigations and litigation, Christine has served as a roundtable commissioner for the Boy Scouts of America and the Sacramento area director for the Educational Freedom Initiative. She worked with Milton Friedman to advance school choice in Sacramento and across California. Christine was recently re-elected vice president of the Sacramento Republican Assembly. We know all what that is. She is also a long-standing member of the Republican Women Federated, active in Sacramento since 1989. She, as an advocate and a patriot, Christine is now turned her attention to Washington, D.C. with one clear purpose: to ensure that every elected official is held to the same standards and under the same laws as every citizen of this nation. It's with that commitment to family, community, accountability, and the rule of law that makes Christine the leading candidate for California's 6th congressional district and the leader of our district needs in Congress. Please join me in welcoming Christine Bish.
I told Ken we should save that for my obituary. So with that, we have a short little video here that I'm going to get going, and then we'll get started.
First shot here, another Democrat might be investigated for mortgage fraud.
Guy who was waving his papers in the House committee saying, I've got offers.
Hold on.
First shot here, another Democrat might be investigated for mortgage fraud.
Guy who was waving his papers in the House
I think I
committee
need the
saying,
IT guy.
I've got offers.
Okay, because we just had it up. So while we're waiting for the video, I want to introduce myself. My name is Christine Bish, and I am a candidate for Congress in California's 6th congressional district. Now, we recently and are continuing to go through the battle over Prop 50. So unlike other candidates, I didn't pick up my toys and run off for what I thought was greener pastures. I live in the 6th congressional district. I've been in that geographical area since 1995. So just because of this new law and the challenges that we're facing with Prop 50, I will not deviate from my mission. I'm still in the district, I'm still in that community, and that's what when we're running for Congress, that's what the intent was, is that we represent the people. And as we get into, you'll see on the video, we get into Adam Schiff and other elected officials. It's about understanding the job of being a representative because you were intended to be close to the people. That's what the founders meant. Not run for office in California, get reelected, get yourself comfortable, and then move 3,000 miles away and just vote here because they don't know us. They don't know where we live, where we work, where we play, where our kids go to school. And that is the job of the representative, to serve us. We are not beholden to any elected official. So with that, I'll start the video.
Alejandro's getting so it's louder. It didn't
Oh.
seem very loud.
Okay. Well, I guess I'm not starting the video.
See if it's not.
Okay, so quick update on Prop 50, since we're picking up a little time here. It was challenged while we were going through the election process. The California Republican Party did work with the Dillon Law Group and filed multiple lawsuits. And each time the California courts had kicked it back saying you don't have damages. We haven't gone through the election yet, so you can't file this lawsuit. So when Prop 50 did pass, it did get overwhelming voter approval for those who turned out. Republicans, we have a turnout issue, but we'll get back to that later. So now it is being challenged. We had expected a response from the Ninth Circuit Court right before Christmas, and they continued to delay it. So what we're getting is they are troubled about the evidence that was presented by not only the Republican Party, but David Topanga, who was the lead plaintiff in that case. So this is positive for us. And earlier I stood up and I talked about those signatures in lieu and how it affects every candidate, but specifically for congressional candidates, we are in uncharted waters. My district, under the legally approved district lines from 2020 or 2021 after the census, it is dramatically different under Prop 50. So there's a small crossover area. Under the old district lines, I was strictly Sacramento County. Under Prop 50, and what the governor was trying to do was punish Kevin Kiley for being an effective legislator. So they literally removed 156,000 voters from Kevin's current district and put them into District 6 where I'm at. And when they did that shift, they also had to move some Democrats as well. So under the new Prop 50 lines that we're collecting signatures under, I will represent not only parts of Sacramento County, but also West Sacramento in Yolo County and Placer County, specifically Roseville and Rockland. Now the courts, we know with the Ninth Circuit, it doesn't matter who they rule against, it will be challenged to the Supreme Court. This could be going on as late as March 5th. And it's really up in the air. So as people start talking about old lines, new lines, I know Kevin has been in the same position I am, is stand your ground. We don't know what's happening with this lawsuit. I know my opponent, Ami Berra, it took him all of 3 minutes after they announced Prop 50 had passed to hightail it over to challenge Kevin. Leaving the District 6 lines in Sacramento without an incumbent for the first time in over 20 years. So if the Prop 50 lines hold, we have an opportunity with my race to pick up another seat in Congress. This is a free-for-all. So far, Senator Richard Pan, former Senator Richard Pan, has jumped into my race to challenge me. Sacramento County District Attorney Thin Ho has jumped into this race. Ami Berra is supporting the Vice President of Planned Parenthood, because that's one of his claims to fame, is that he was a legislator of the year for Planned Parenthood. It's not about the district. It hasn't been with Ami Berra about the district. It's about his own political ambition. And that's why he couldn't hightail it out fast enough. In the event that Prop 50 is overturned, I'm prepared to take on Dr. Berra. Either way, I'm in this to win it. So let's try the video.
Little shock here, another Democrat might be investigated for mortgage fraud.
Guy who was waving his papers in the House committee saying, I've got hard proof that Donald Trump is colluded with the Russians. And he kept saying that, never produced a single piece of paper that validated that.
First question. First, Letitia James, alleged mortgage fraud. Now we have Adam Schiff allegedly committed mortgage fraud at all. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I just saw it, and I think the thing with Adam Schiff is very serious.
So he's got some explaining to do, if you will. You know, you cannot be a resident of California, run for political office, vote in California, and then turn around in the state of Maryland and say this is your primary residence.
Was he voting too?
Oh yeah, he was voting. I've got a copy of his certified copies of his voter registration forms going back to 2000.
So wait a second. Adam Schiff was voting in California illegally when he was a primary resident of Maryland, according to his own legal documents?
Exactly. So he's got to pick and choose. Are you a resident of California or are you a resident of Maryland? There's felonies on both sides. I don't really care which one he gets burned on.
All right.
Congressman Adam Schiff stopped here at the Steinbeck Center in Salinas to continue his pitch to California voters, but doing so amid questions about where he lives full-time. Schiff's campaign has said he has been open about relocating and raising his family in Maryland as he works in D.C. We asked him about all of this. Take a listen.
I think just about every member of Congress has a residence in their state and a residence back in D.C. since we're in session much of the week. And people make a family decision where they're going to have their kids. But our principal residence, our primary residence is in California. It always has been and always will be.
You want the American people to believe that? Do you think they're stupid?
Breaking tonight, questions about the investigation into mortgage fraud claims against one of President Trump's biggest political rivals. This story has a lot of moving parts.
An Ingram Angle exclusive, the Trump administration source telling the Angle that a criminal investigation of Adam Schiff is underway.
The woman who broke the Adam Schiff mortgage fraud story, Christine Bish, joins us for the latest.
So you started looking, I understand, by training and profession, you're a realtor. You looked at real estate documents of Adam Schiff.
Yes, but I was also an investigator in a law firm for 10 years. Chasing bad guys is, it's what I've done.
Our sources are telling us that investigators are now looking into the possibility that there was a person who claimed to be working for Pulte or Martin, but was actually not properly deputized by the Justice Department.
Multiple sources familiar tell Fox News the DOJ is investigating the investigation itself into mortgage fraud allegations surrounding California Senator Adam Schiff. We're told federal investigators are honing in on some of the people behind the probe and the methods used. Fox has confirmed investigators with the U.S. Attorney's Office in Maryland in Greenbelt today met with a woman who submitted a tip earlier this year regarding Schiff. Her name is Christine Bish. She tells Fox News she was subpoenaed to testify before a Maryland grand jury. She flew to Maryland from California, but did not meet with the grand jury. Instead, she met with investigators today and says she will meet with the grand jury in the future. Bish is a Republican candidate in California, and she tells Fox News she came prepared to discuss her allegations against Schiff, but instead was peppered with questions about the investigation itself, including some of those behind the probe.
It makes me think that the investigators are investigating the investigators. First, I want to set the record straight, okay? When we started this whole conversation with me being today, I showed up on a federal subpoena to talk about the Schiff case, about the records that I was able to gather, my analysis of those records, and my allegations. They didn't want to talk about the Adam Schiff case. And then towards the end of the interview, they made a point of telling me that the only one being investigated was Adam Schiff. But that's not what the questions were.
Adam Schiff is infamous for having been involved in all kinds of nefarious activity, but no one's been quite able to pin him down. And so this story popped on all of our radars because we thought,
Adam, forms of scum I've ever dealt with. Human being, very dishonest person. I have no idea what's going on. You tell me that he's going to be indicted. I don't know.
I'm not afraid of Adam Schiff. Or he might be screaming that he has documents and he can prove whatever. I submitted a 164-page complaint to the House Ethics Committee. I'm ready to take him on and take him down.
That's right.
Not everybody's a political junkie.
Chris Bish, who is running for Congress, is working for the No on 50 campaign.
What we're finding, or me personally, is that people are undecided. They've got so many mixed messages, they don't know what's going on. I'm sick of politicians who don't care about you and me, who don't care about my daughter and the thousands of other families that have suffered at the hands of Democrats pushing a socialist agenda.
This is not about freedom or personal choice.
The goal here is compliance.
Keep them patient, but our patience is wearing thin.
Are you considering the consequences of who you elect to represent you? Because I do. I've dealt with unfair taxes, rising inflation, high crime, and the growing homelessness crisis. It's time to restore Second Amendment freedoms, dissolve sanctuary cities, and end the catch and release in our justice system. Sacramento, I'm ready to fight for you, for our families, for Kara. I'm Christine Bish, and I'm running for California's 6th Congressional District to give you the representation you deserve. I'm asking you to join me on this incredible journey. Together, let's build a bright, safer future for all our children. Our support. Donate today at bishforcongress.com. I'm Christine Bish, and I approve this message.
Hey, I'm Rob Schneider. Now you do the right thing and vote for Chris Bish. You can do it.
I think Rob Schneider was the highlight of that reel. Close second would be the president calling Adam Schiff Scott. That was fun too. So there's a lot of history with me and my campaign beyond today. Now, when President Trump was talking about Adam Schiff and was questioned about it, he had put a post up on Truth Social. And what he had put up there is each one of you at your table, you have this little packet. And this is a little fundraising letter that we had put out. But in here are 2 pieces of evidence. I think it's the second page there on the front. That was the document that the president shared on Truth Social. And it was part of the evidence that I had submitted. And we're going to get into that. When I did the interview with Governor Huckabee to help me expose Adam Schiff, at the time, it was 164 pages. And I had been investigating Adam Schiff. That file, when the president was delivered it to his desk, was over 300 pages of evidence. So we're going to go back to the beginning and find out why I decided to run for Congress and how I ended up digging into Adam Schiff's mortgage files. Okay? It's a weird jump. So we have gentleman Glenn here, who is an environmental expert. And that's really how I started running. Back in 2019, I'm a real estate agent, just sitting in front of an empty house, waiting to show a house to a man I didn't know. All those safe things that women do in real estate. Well, luckily this man didn't show up, and I was sitting and playing on my phone when I had discovered a federal lawsuit. And the federal lawsuit was with my water district, Sacramento Suburban Water District, against the federal government and the old McClellan Air Force Base in the Sacramento area. And it was talking about groundwater contamination. So I'm panicking. I've been in my house since 1995. I'd raised 4 children there. I now have grandchildren, and terrified for my health, their health, the health of my grandchildren, all of the neighbors, all the people that are my friends, my neighbor, and my extended family. So I ended up calling my water district and took care of a couple people who answered my phone calls till I got to the head biologist. Find out what's going on. What's this lawsuit about? And he said, not to worry, ma'am. There are 10 wells that service your community. 7 of them have been closed because the contamination levels are too high. But the 3 remaining wells have acceptable levels of contamination. In an unrelated health issue, about 2 weeks later, I end up in the hospital. and they discovered a tumor on my right kidney. We had surgery. I was extremely lucky, was malignant, but they got it with surgery, so no chemo, no radiation. So this is really my hair. But with that, I had also contacted my current representative, Doris Matsui. And I wanted to know, what are you doing about the water contamination? Why haven't I been notified? Why hasn't the schools been notified? What's going on with the EPA? Have you brought this up on the floor of the House of Representatives? This is in 2019. I didn't even get the confirmation, a confirmation letter, thank you for calling us, drop dead, send a donation. Nothing. So I had my surgery and I'm recovering in bed, and Doris Matsui comes on TV. This is 2019, May of 2019. And Doris is complaining about President Trump and how she will block everything she can and will continue to block anything she can to stop him. Now I'm on some really good drugs while I'm laying in bed watching Doris. But I said, you know what? You don't want that job. I don't always like the people I work with or want to work with them, but I have an obligation to do my job. So you don't want that job. I want that job. My surgery was May 24th, 2019. By August 15th, against doctor's orders, I started my campaign for Congress. We have to take people who have their own selfish goals out of Washington, out of Sacramento, out of our assemblies, out of any elected office. They are there as servants. We are not beholden to any of them. Now that first race didn't have a clue what I was doing. And I wasn't fundraising either. Because I knew that I may not be out of the woods. I needed that 6 months to know that they got all the cancer, that it didn't, that they didn't miss part of it. So we fast forward, I believe it was December 6th of 2019. My husband went with me to see the doctor, and he said, "You are cancer-free. Congratulations, Mrs. Bish." We left the doctor's office and went to the voter registrar where I was sworn in as a candidate for Congress. And here we are today. So what happened was, I'm running against Doris Matsui, and I go through the primary, and I was really surprised. I won. And we're sitting in this little bar, everybody's celebrating, and I said to myself, well, what do I do now? So, well, where does Doris live? I know Doris Matsui does not live in Sacramento. So I started looking into where does Doris live. Turns out Doris Matsui and her late husband, Bob, had moved to Maryland, sold their house in Sacramento, September of 1979. Purchased her house in Maryland. It was June of 1979 when they actually closed escrow, then sold the house in Sacramento. She registered to vote using her father-in-law's address November 13th, 1979, and has never changed her voter registration. So over the years, Doris had refinanced her house and had refinanced it as a primary residence. And her tax returns will show that. But more importantly, where we're here today, and that's about Adam Schiff. Because as I'm digging into Doris and digging into her background and how she ended up buying this house, Adam Schiff kept popping up. Well, what interest would I have in Adam Schiff? He's down in Southern California. I'm not running against him. I'm not doing opposition research, but it keeps popping up. And how many times, how frequently he had refinanced that house to pull cash out. Now, at the same time that all this is going on, I'm working on the recall for Gavin Newsom, and I'm also involved in an election integrity lawsuit with EIP-CA of California. I'm getting my legal background as far as real estate law. Been doing this for years, but now I'm learning election law and how those two things work together. So that document that President Trump put up was so important, and we saw it in the video where Adam Schiff said he made no secret that he moved his family to Maryland. Well, you can do that if it's a second home or it's a guest home or an investment property. But when he signed those declarations stating that he was a resident of the state of Maryland, he obligated himself each time he did it, those are only 2 examples, for a 12-month commitment, which made him ineligible to serve or to run as a representative from California. Now, Adam and Doris had been caught back in 2009 in a house ethics complaint. And what they did was they paid restitution to the state of Maryland. What does that mean? It meant that they were taking property tax exemptions in the state of Maryland that they weren't entitled to because they claimed they were residents of California on their voter registration, on their nomination paperwork to keep running every 2 years. This is a conflict, and there is state and federal law. So I started out in 2023. I had all my paperwork together, and that's when you saw me with Governor Huckabee. And it was 164 pages. And I sent that to the House Ethics Committee. I got more from them than I did from Doris. I got to thank you for my submission. And it disappeared. Well, wasn't happy with that. So I kept digging and I kept working. So fast forward to October 16th, 2024. I resubmitted it. It's now over 300 pages. And it was covered everywhere. Daily Caller, Fox News, you name it, everybody had it. CNN said documents had surfaced that Adam Schiff was a resident of Maryland. I'm sitting there going, they didn't surface, I had to dig them up. The tooth fairy didn't drop these things off. I got a lot of work in this. So I continued. Now we're at April 30th, 2025. Nothing had happened. I was kind of bummed out. So I saw this tip line that Director Pulte, he's the head of FHFA, and that oversees Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac government guaranteed loans. And I submitted it to his tip line. And while I was at it, I sent it over to the FBI. Why not? I was on the computer anyhow. I get a confirmation. Thank you for submitting your tip. Then out of nowhere, my phone starts blowing up. We're October 16th. Everybody in the world's trying to call me all at once because I can see the missed calls and because I'm out of room on my voicemail and text messages were at like 3,000.
Oh my God.
It was nuts. Well, finally, I pick up my phone and, was taking a little time off then, and they said, the president tweeted out one of your documents. It was a mutual friend of ours, a lady by the name of Sue Blake, who said, Chris, I recognized it from the folder, the one you've been passing out all these years.
All these years.
And that's where the investigation into the investigators and who I was talking to. So I ended up talking to the FBI, an assistant U.S. attorney out of Maryland, Office of Inspector General for FHFA, wanting to know who I talked to. Who did you share these documents with? I said, well, honestly, the list of who I didn't give it to is probably shorter. Yeah. I've been getting this out for years. You guys are behind the 8 ball on this. So I ended up with a subpoena to Washington, D.C. Well, actually Maryland, just outside of Washington, D.C. Because remember, Adam Schiff is a resident of the state of Maryland. You're holding 2 of the affidavits that he signed that said he's a resident of the state of Maryland. So when I got there, they weren't interested in the investigation. They weren't interested in the evidence or the legal standards which are on the back page. How it violates California law, U.S. mortgage law, Maryland law. And that's just a small sample of that over 300 pages of evidence. They wanted to know who helped me. Well, nobody helped me. You guys weren't interested. Had I been working with Director Pulte? Did he have access? I said, it's public record. Everybody has access. Have you talked to the special investigator that's been appointed to investigate Adam Schiff, Ed Martin? I said, no. He said, well, you have a lot of communication with him on social media. And I said, that's called gaslighting. I'm running for office. Come on, guys. It's all public record. And that is what is brilliant about this case, and why I will be called back before the grand jury, is all of the evidence against Adam Schiff is public record. I didn't ask anybody for favors. I didn't go digging places where I couldn't verify the documents. Everything that was included in that file, if you have a smartphone, you can find it. The value in what I submitted was the legal analysis, because I did go to several attorneys and talk to them about mortgage law and election law. They don't know both. So I became the subject matter expert in this. And this is how we're going to hold Adam Schiff accountable, and the president knows it. So while there's the infighting going on in Washington, D.C., I am steadfast, I'm not going anywhere, and I'm still digging into other people. So I have submitted the complaint against Doris Metzley, who hasn't been a resident of California since 1979, and showed the evidence. I've also submitted a complaint against Ami Berra, who has not been a resident of California since 2013. And oh yeah, I did do a little digging into a man by the name of Eric Swalwell, who wants to be our governor. Now I can't take full credit for that. I went and verified the information that was out there, that yes, he did take out a mortgage for over $1 million for a house in Washington, D.C., and signed a similar affidavit claiming he was a resident of the state of Maryland. These are felonies. And each time they voted, each time they re-ran for office, that is a felony count. And that's where we get into the catch-22. And it really hurts to smile that much to know that we've got them. But there's a lot more to the campaign than just this oversight. I'm not a one-hit wonder. Like I said, I was involved in the recall 2020 of Gavin Newsom. We started that whole movement in my real estate office in Roseville. And at that time, we had over 30,000 pieces of mail a day going out of that office. We were the outgoing mail. We had a location for incoming mail for petitions, and I was actively involved in that. I also sued Gavin Newsom. He doesn't like me very much. Over the unconstitutional lockdown. See, I was running for office against Doris Matsui, and his lockdown interfered with a federal election. Harmeet Dillon and Mark Moisier of the Dillon Law Group were generous enough to represent me pro bono in that lawsuit. And that is the lawsuit. That is the reason that Gavin Newsom finally lifted the emergency order. We were winning in the Ninth Circuit. And they were telling Governor Newsom at that time, she has merit. She has the precedence, the legal means to challenge you in court. So the only way to stop this from going before the Supreme Court was for him to withdraw the emergency order, and then the Ninth Circuit Court came back to us and said, well, you won. Your case is moot. So I took on the governor and won. And that is the result of not just me, but a team of people that were working with me to hold government accountable. And I continue this work not only in real estate, in election law, unconstitutional limits on our freedom of speech, our First Amendment. It's time for me to win this time. Now in the video, you saw my campaign video where I talked about Kara. Kara was my daughter. Kara is my daughter. Kara died from a fentanyl overdose. May 13th, 2022. That was my second run for Congress, and I ended up dropping out just before the primary. But if you watch that entire video, what you will see is me talking about the fentanyl trade, the drugs and the human trafficking coming across our border. And on this one, I am nonpartisan because Republicans and Democrats alike allowed the border to be open. They didn't stand up. They didn't stand up for Mike Hara or anyone else who's lost a loved one, a neighbor, a coworker, a friend, a distant family member to fentanyl. We all know someone. So I'm holding elected officials accountable. So when we see that I'm going to Washington D.C. to hold people accountable, it's to hold them to their word for a one-tier justice system. I'm a big supporter of President Trump, not because of the glitz or the glamour, but he's the first person elected to office who did something to protect me, to protect my family, to protect your family, and that's by closing the border. And I did backflips when they took in Maduro. And I'm waiting to see the rest of them that are coming in. As your next representative from the Sacramento area, from the 6th Congressional District, my focus won't just be on holding elected officials accountable, because I am passionate about conservatism and the conservative movement when it comes to our land. The Democrats have hijacked our environment by calling it environmentalism. Conservatives, Republicans, we are the people who are the hiking and fishing and boating. These are the people that are in the Forest Service, game wardens. These are conservative issues. Yet we as Republicans have allowed the Democrats to take over the vocabulary. People who live in concrete castles will step over human feces to drink recycled toilet water, are setting our policies. Where we build, what's in the water that we drink, translates to what's in the food. Because whether you get your food from the Sacramento Valley or all the way down to Southern California, the contamination in the water, in the groundwater, goes from the overflow in our yards and from washing our cars, or even down the drain. Goes into our creeks, our rivers, our streams, that's pumped out for the food that you are eating. There's a lot of things that we need to do, and I'm the girl to do it. Now, I've covered a whole lot of issues, and we're getting a little heavy, so let's go back to Adam Schiff. That's kind of fun.
Yeah.
And I do want to open the floor to questions. And I think this will be the number one thing when we're electing officials. It's not the speech that I give or the videos or anything that you receive in the mail. It's me being in the hot seat, not avoiding your questions, but answering them to the best of my ability. And that's who you want in office. Someone who is open to criticism, to critique, and willing to answer your questions. So please ask away. Yes, sir.
I'm just curious on the Adam Schiff situation.
Yeah.
When will it actually go into some kind of court or some kind of a legal situation where, what's the time frame? Because we have so many things that they're gonna be voting on in Congress that we need to get this thing cleaned up as quickly as possible. We don't want folks like him voting.
Okay. This type of prosecution does take a long time. And kind of a little thing with the Attorney General of the United States, Pam Bondi. And so her and I have been going back and forth on social media. I believe that she is in support of the work that I'm doing. There's been a special prosecutor appointed. His name is Ed Martin. I'll move back over here, get rid of some of that static. Ed Martin has been appointed to it. Right now, you gotta remember, while Donald Trump is draining the swamp, There are decades of people who are still in their seats. Can't get rid of them all at once.
Just get rid of him.
Yeah. Well, the best thing that we can do with the Adam Schiff case, where it's at, because the evidence is irrefutable. That's why they're going after the process. And like I told the deputy U.S. attorney, there is no process. I did this. This is public record. This is as a citizen investigator. We saw this with Nick Shirley in Minnesota. I'm doing this one here in California. A friend of mine by the name of Sam Antar is the one who uncovered Letitia James. And we have a history of this, going back to Aaron Brockovich. It is the citizen investigators, the people who are not worried about politics, worried about tea parties and mixers and all that, the people who care about our communities and what's going on. And that is the future of politics. We are the future. The individuals, the voters. It's politicians who choose not to listen to us. That really made me do it.
Do you have a sense of the time frame on Schiff?
I do. I expect this will come up when we get past the primaries. So my big push right now is with Leader Thune, John Thune. Because while Adam Schiff is under federal investigation for mortgage fraud, voter fraud, election fraud, and then all of the other things that he has done, he should not be sitting on the Judiciary Committee. He should not be voting for the judges that may be hearing his case. And that's where we're at with that. It's they're enemies on the floor, but in the back room they've been friends for years. So and I call on people like you, contact Director Thune, or Leader Thune, and tell him Adam Schiff is under federal investigation, not only for what Christine Bish has brought forward, but on Russiagate, on J6, you name it. He should not be serving on any committees. We can't pull him back. We're not going to be able to recall him, but we can stop him from influencing litigation or law. Yes, ma'am.
So to follow up with that, I commend you for all the work that you're doing. But don't they have something like, when a cop does something, they put him on leave? I mean, shouldn't he be a prisoner or something just like that? Where they can be put on leave until we know what's going on, because obviously the facts are there, but nobody's processing.
I'm not elected yet, so my voice is about the same as yours, and that's where I ask for help. Start contacting the Senate, because he's now in the Senate, God help us all, about removing him from those committee assignments. He's not entitled to represent us. Now, and if we look at it, since when did Maryland get 3 senators? And California gets 1. So we do have an argument, but I don't expect this to happen until after the primaries. There is a lot going on. I know Attorney General Bondi is under a lot of scrutiny. I get a lot of tips. So I'm going to tell you about one of the tips that I got. Was the Assistant Attorney General for the United States, Todd Blanche. And it's rumored that he's the one who's overseeing this investigation. So I have come out publicly because I got a tip that Todd Blanche had his own mortgage issues and that he had to recuse himself from any issues regarding mortgage fraud or residency. And where I don't believe he did anything wrong, what the tip was is that he had co-signed for his adult son to purchase a property in Maryland. No problem with that. He gave his son his power of attorney to buy a $200,000 fixer-upper in Maryland. Well, the son forgot to check the box that said that the co-signer wouldn't occupy the property. Where there was no intent, there was no malice, it wasn't his intention for his son to do that, but he did give him the power of attorney. So on that one, I wouldn't ask for prosecution or refer it, but it was negligent. And that is where the Assistant U.S. Attorney, who is directing the investigation into Adam Schiff, Doris Matsui, Eric Swalwell, Ami Berra, must recuse himself. He needs his own house in order before he can run those investigations. And that is part of what was going on in Washington, D.C. I'm a digger. Okay, next.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a question about my own House member, Mr. Thompson, Mike Thompson. And,
Is this another tip?
No. I wish it would be. So the thing is, I know, you have a lot of stuff to do and you're running for office too, but is there some group that could look through the House members in California to be sure they were all okay in terms of their mortgage stuff? Because I just would like to know that Mr. Thompson is not a crook as well.
Here's me. I'm the group. Now remember, going back with Doris Matsui and how I discovered Adam Schiff, is there was a complaint into the House Ethics Committee. And there were about 10 other members of the House of Representatives that were included in that complaint. And these are all people that have primary residence, their principal residence in a state other than where they were elected. And Nancy Pelosi, who was Speaker at that time, was able to put it under the rug. There were a few news stories, but ultimately what happened was all of those members paid restitution because they were taking unlawful tax breaks in the states, in DC, Maryland, in that area. So there is no group. If you have one of my papers there, you can send me the tip and I'll go digging. Usually I've gotten pretty good at this. I've got a long list. I can usually verify in about 2 hours. Sometimes quicker. The more information you give me, the easier it is for me to confirm it. Because Adam Schiff was right. The majority of people, especially people from the Midwest all the way out to the West Coast, they do have another place that they live when they're working in DC. But it's important, it's how they took title and the benefits that they got.
Yeah.
That is the catch on that. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Christine, for bringing all this to our attention. You've mentioned the U.S. Attorney several times. Are you talking about Bill Asaley?
No, he is an assistant U.S. attorney. I'm talking about Pam Bondi, who is the U.S. attorney, or the Attorney General. The assistant U.S. attorney is out of Maryland. A guy named Chris Sarma.
Oh, okay. And we're talking about Bill Asaley.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Bill Asaley has not gotten my complaint or received my complaint yet about the mortgage fraud in California. That's sitting on my desk for my last run through. Because I'm not done with Adam Schiff, Eric Swalwell, Doris Matsui, or Ami Berra. So, we've got DC working now, we've got the President's attention, we've got the Attorney General for the United States. Now I'm going to work on California. I'm just one person. Okay, do we have any more questions? Yes, back here.
Just quickly, fly in the ointment to all of this amazing work that you're doing is it comes right down to the judges. How do we deal with the judges who just throw everything out?
Well, we're not at the judge level yet. We're still within the grand jury. So when I was subpoenaed to go back, what they subpoenaed me for was my communication with anyone within the federal government. Anyone that I had talked to or had assisted me with the investigation. Clearly my English wasn't clear enough that I had done this by myself. There are news reports, there's evidence with the House Ethics Committee. There was no help. And I remember some of the people snickering behind my back saying, so you ever gonna get Adam Schiff? Those are the first people for me to forward that Truth Social tweet from the president. I'm not on my own anymore. So this is a focus of the president, but first we've got to get through the grand jury. Now, we have seen problems with the prosecutors, some of them, in the Letitia James case, which again, that was a citizen investigator. Every document was public record. There was nothing questionable about where it came from. And they're trying to put that one under the rug. So we do know there's still a lot of swamp creatures out there. And for me, and for Sam Antar, for Nick Shirley, those citizen investigators who are coming forward, we put ourselves in the line of fire, whether we're running for office or not. Because the truth is what matters. And in exposing the truth and having a one-tier justice system, a justice system that is equal for us as well as elected officials. Thank you. And then you had a question? Nope, okay. Any other questions? Because I know I'm covering a lot. Yes, ma'am.
I have a suggestion for all presidents that have spoken here. Next meeting that you have, tell your membership to get on the phone, to call John Thune, to tell him to get Adam Schiff walked out of that committee. That's the least we can do as a group of federated groups. Did everyone hear that? Say it again. I don't remember.
Again, all the members, President, should be helping Chris do this by notifying their members to send out emails and complaints. So at their next meeting.
Have to physically do it. Call John Thune. I remember I was at a conference and the president, I think it was of the California Federated, told all of us to get up and get our phones out and call to get who it was right then and there to tell that person in Washington to do. It was so long ago, I don't remember, but we all did it, and I think it really was very effective. So yes, we can do things like that. Have your membership call John Thune at your next meeting and tell him to get Adam Schiff off that committee.
That would be the Judiciary Committee. Yes.
Well, thank you, Chris. Oh my goodness, for taking time and coming and sharing all that you're doing. And we're so proud of all of your efforts, your courage. And if there's anything that we can do, send me an email. I'll blast it out to the presidents, and let's team up and make this become a reality, getting rid of Adam Schiff from having any control.
So I'm going to give one last pitch, because regardless of where you are from, I'm running for Congress in Sacramento. It doesn't matter where you live. You can still help me on this campaign. As you can see, it's not an empty speech. There is action behind everything I say, everything that I do. And I will not only be representing the people of the 6th Congressional District, but I will be representing the people of California. Because I don't let an invisible line stop me or what I do or how I serve. Not everybody can donate, but if you can make a phone call, you can volunteer for the campaign. We're collecting signatures in the Sacramento area. Invite me to speak. Introduce me to someone who can make donations, who can make a bigger impact. This is not about one congressional race. This is about holding elected officials accountable and the rule of law. That people in Washington, D.C. live under the same laws that we do. I'm not a big person, but I got a big mouth, and I'll get a lot done in Washington, D.C. Thank you for your time. My name's Christine Bish.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Right now, we have a very important announcement. Eunice, come on up.
Okay, some good news, everybody. This is from Carl DeMaio, head of Reform California, who was